Okay. Hello? All right. Could I ask everybody to find a seat, please, so we can get the AGM going? Because we actually have people waiting online to watch us. Hello? Could everybody grab a seat, please? After, I think, well, I guess, well then, yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, welcome to the CMFT Annual General Meeting. I would like to call this meeting to order. Could I get somebody make a motion to approve the agenda? And just say your name loudly so Vicky knows who it is. Okay. And somebody second, please? Okay. And everybody should have gotten this agenda and everything in an e-blast a few days ago from Donna. If you don't have it, it's also online at www.cmft.ca. Is there any additions or changes to the agenda as written? No. Okay. So all those in favor of accepting the approving the agenda as written, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Abstaining? Nope. Great. The agenda is approved. Next up, approval of the minutes of the last meeting. So this is from in Ottawa on October 27th, 2018. Could I have somebody make a motion to approve the agenda? I mean, the minutes of that meeting. Anybody? Okay, say your name loudly, please, for Vicky. Can I have somebody second it, please? Somebody? Anybody? David Fung, thank you. Okay. Okay. Any changes or mistakes or anything in those minutes? Nope. Okay. So all those in favor of accepting the minutes of the last meeting of 2018, please raise your hand, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Abstaining? Nope. All right. We have approved the minutes of the last meeting. So next up, it's business arising from the minutes of the last meeting. We don't have any. So moving right on, I will go to President's report. I mean, I already said it earlier this morning. It's been quite a tumultuous year. We've come a very, very, very long way. And I really believe after yesterday, where we did some really, really difficult strategic planning, I think we're really on it. Instead of putting out fires and just trying to catch things as they fall off the table, we're really in more of the mode of how do we really build this association going into the future, and how does it embody our core values of being open, honest, transparent, diverse, multicultural, Canadian. And for that to happen, this is a volunteer-driven organization. Please, and we are very, very, very wedded to the concept of saying we're bottom up. So those of you that are passionate about this work, please contact us. Tell us what you're passionate about. We've got committees doing all sorts of different things. And if we don't have a committee doing what you're passionate about, you know what? We'll create one. And we really mean it. We want this association to reflect the members. We don't want to try and take members and jam them through, the square peg or round hole, whatever. Okay? It's got to be an association that really represents the professionals who are doing this work across the country. Some of the other things we've been really working on. You'll be hearing a lot in the reports, but I want to highlight some of the things that maybe are not in the reports right now. One thing we are definitely going to do, we are changing the name. Marriage will come out of that, okay? All right. We wanted to do this in the beginning, but there was extreme logistical difficulties in just separating from AA to going independent, irrespective of changing the name. So we basically said we need to park it over to the side while we got through the initial year or two. So we are really in a place to change the name. We are looking at the name of the Canadian Association of Relational and Family Therapy. We're not wedded to it. If people have other ideas, please send them along. One thing we liked is it's the same number of letters. It's less editing, and it's kind of flows in the same way. Pardon me? Oh, where's Raft? It's got to be Catherine. So the other thing is the association has really gone from being an association, I think, driven by usually maybe one person, which was usually whoever was the president at the time, to being an association that is really driven by committees, by board members, by volunteers. The association has gone past the days of being sinking or swimming based on one person. And we've done that by the association really, we meet as a board every 2 weeks by video conference. We're doing a ton of work. We know we're not communicating with the members because we just haven't figured out how to do it properly yet. And we apologize for that. And actually, I apologize for that because I was the one who was saying, I'll do a lot of the communication, and I just don't have enough time. So anybody out there who's really into doing communications, PR, marketing, social stuff, please call me because we want to get this information out to the membership on a much more regular basis. And it's something that we really are trying to make happen this next year. Sorry, as you can tell, I'm just sort of talking about this off the top of my head. But there are a few key pieces that I really want to highlight. First of all, two long-standing members of the board are now stepping off of the board. And I really, really want to acknowledge everything they've done. First is Vicky, who's right here doing the minutes once again. I think it's really important that we celebrate the people who have really put time, effort, oh my God, more than time. And Vicky's been at the table for such a long time. I mean, like, I almost, you know, Donna was sort of saying, don't forget to thank Vicky. And I'm like, oh, right, she's leaving. It's like, I don't want to accept it. But we really, really want to acknowledge all the hard work Vicky has done. She actually took on secretary, which means you know she's passionate about this because nobody wants the role. You know. So Vicky, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for everything you have done. We have a little, which one is it? Here we go. A little token of our appreciation if you'd like to come up and get your framed certificate. All right, thank you. Next, David. What can I say? First of all, when I first read, oh, David Fung got elected to the board, and I'm thinking, oh, some Asian guy from the West Coast. So once again, stereotypes, last names. I think Jan was sort of touching on that. It's been a pleasure to work with you. I think I speak for the whole board in thanking you for everything you've done, and especially your leadership in the Regional and National Committee, which has just grown by leaps and bounds. And I know you're staying on that committee, so I don't think of myself as saying goodbye to you. But the board is really going to miss your presence. And I just want to tell this to all the people who are watching and the people in the room who don't normally know about this stuff. And David has really gone above and beyond in really contributing to the CMFT board. So David, come on up and get your certificate. We're getting a picture. Okay. All right. Okay. Another thing, we really want to include the membership and everything we're doing going forward. So we will be doing a survey of the membership. So if you have ideas, if you have things you think we really should be putting in the survey, please contact us. Let us know what it is. If you're in a committee, please sit as a committee and get together your questions of what you would like to see in this survey. We want the membership more involved. Okay? I think that's about it for me. I will still be president, but I really, really, really am looking for a president-elect. So I'm hoping somebody will materialize. Next up is the treasurer's report. So Heather, come on up. Do you want my laptop?
Yes, I do, actually.
Okay.
This is better than the notes I made for myself. Hello, everyone. I will make this short and sweet because I know we have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight, and it's already been a very long day. On your table, I put a copy of our 2008 financial report, or 2018 financial report, trying to save some trees. So there's one copy on each table. This will be available, I believe, in the members section of the website. You can also, if you're really passionate about financial reports, you can contact Donna and get it sent to you. Yeah, everyone's like, yeah, okay. Donna's not going to get very many emails about that. Just a couple things to point out. We did end the year with quite a surplus. It was, yeah, which is really, really exciting. I think there was a lot of fear around kind of going out as our own organization, how that was going to work financially, but we made it through the year. We're able to pay all of our bills, and it's just setting us up to be in a really good spot for the future as we grow. Couple of things you'll notice just on the budget to highlight. We had originally budgeted $10,000 for admin support, and we actually ended up doubling that. When we set the budget up, we kind of said, well, we'll get Donna to work for however much work there is, and it turned out there was double as much work as we thought. So that's the admin, and in the new budget, we have calculated more accurately for that. Sorry? Yes, and well worth it. I'm sure I'm not the only one that sends frantic emails to her and she gets back to you right away. So it's definitely well worth it. Another thing to highlight, you'll notice under bank and PayPal charges, we had budgeted that would only cost us about $800. It ended up being almost $3,000, and that is reflecting how much money we brought in because PayPal takes a percentage of that. For the future, we have in July switched to using Wild Apricot in connection to our website to take in money, not PayPal. So they do still charge, but they charge less. So hopefully that will be less for this year and moving into the future. And because we are a new organization, we had lots of fun legal stuff that we needed to do. So we hadn't budgeted any money for that, but we did end up spending just over $4,000 on a lawyer in terms of setting everything up and making sure we were doing everything correctly and by the books. We are going into, in 2019, obviously we haven't finished the year yet, but things are looking really good, and we're anticipating that we will be ending the year again with a surplus. So next year we have dedicated some money to kind of two things. One, a strategic plan. We had a board working day yesterday and did some of the beginning of that, but because we're a new organization, there's lots more work to do, and so we've got a nice chunk of money set aside for that, and part of that will be, we're hoping, kind of reaching out to all of our members, collecting feedback in terms of what you want to see for the organization. And we do have some money that we're setting aside that we're not sure what we're going to do with, because we are a new organization. There's lots of different directions we can go, so we're just kind of holding on to that for now, to see what next year is going to bring, and if there's any specific projects that we don't know of yet that we want to spend our money on. We're also getting a credit card, which is proving to be one of the most difficult things in the world process for us, but we're looking at doing that because right now there's several people who are really putting a lot of their own money into the organization and then having to be reimbursed. So yeah, we want to make sure that they can eat day to day. So we're going to get a credit card hopefully at the beginning of the year. But in order to do that, we do need to pass a special resolution as an organization because we don't have anything in our bylaws about borrowing money. So you can keep your eyes open for more information that will be coming hopefully in the next 2 to 3 months. And we do need everyone's support. We need to have 2/3 voting on that. So just keep your... Oh, we need 2/3 of the people who vote to say yes, but hopefully we'll have a nice turnout because I believe there'll be other things that we also need to vote on to make changes to the bylaws. So keep your eyes open for that. And I think that's everything for me. Unless anyone has any questions. Yes? Do you want to answer?
Sure. It's actually a question we struggled with a lot in starting up. The reason we kept the dues very low is we were well aware that many people are members of multiple associations and multiple licenses, and we really want to acknowledge for some people it's very onerous being, in Quebec I have my TCF, I have my RP, and I'm a member of CMFT, and I'm well established in my career, so I can only imagine what it's like for somebody starting out in their career and really worrying about how much money they're putting out in terms of dues. And it was one of the things, there's a lot of other associations that charge a lot, and I've heard from a lot of students saying, I don't want to switch from student. I'm going to hold on to that student one forever because I can't afford what a full member is. So hopefully we will find other revenue streams, and we do not want to be 100% dues reliant. No association should be 100% dues reliant. So we're going to find other revenue streams as well, and maybe we'll change some membership categories for people who can afford some more, and other ways for people to contribute voluntarily as well. But that's what I mean. We want to be inclusion means also being attuned to socioeconomic realities for many people, especially in our field, who we know a lot of times that first job, you're not making much. So, does that answer? Yeah. Any more questions for Heather?
You could say your name again, and we can invoice you for a little bit of more of a category. Just teasing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think too, as a new organization, we wanted to be conscious of keeping them low for now, realizing that like other organizations, we don't yet have a publication or things like that. So maybe as we grow and we have more to offer, that may be something we look at. Yeah. Thank you.
Heather, thank you so much. We always struggle with filling treasurer, and Heather actually likes it. Thanks so much. Okay, so next up is Donna Chamberlain with the business report.
Well, as you've already heard, it's been a hectic year, but an exciting one, very exciting. It's such a privilege, and I mean that seriously, to watch this association grow, to work with people that I know are understanding. When I mess up, I'll admit it, and you gratefully accept the apology. And yeah, nobody's perfect. I've done it. I really enjoy working with everyone, phones, emails. I've appreciated hearing today from quite a few people saying, I really appreciate how quickly I get back to them. I am sure there are some in this room that are saying, yeah, really? I do my best, okay? Sometimes I forget to say I don't know the answer, but I'll get it for you, so it might take me a little longer to reply than what you think it does. I'm sure you all know we have a new website. It was an exciting venture on its own, but I think you will find it is a much better website. It is still in progress. It always will be still in progress because we think of things we can add, things that maybe shouldn't be there. People don't have to email me now and say, can I have an application for RMFT? You can go to the website, it's there. And like any other website, it needs updated. Forms need updated, lists need updated. I'm not sure who's looked at it recently. Of course, there's been lots of information about this event on the website, and it made it somewhat easier to do it through the registration through the Wild Apricot. Now, I say somewhat. Part of that's probably because it was new to me, and I had to learn how to use the information. We'll do our best to keep the information there relevant and updated. So if you see something that you really feel, I don't think so, let us know. Maybe we haven't checked it for a while or something. You will now receive invoices automatically from us for your annual dues. So if you look at something that's, I know a lot of you are coming up for renewal. If you see an invoice come in and you aren't sure about it, go ahead and email me and ask and make sure it actually is. As you heard from Heather, we no longer use PayPal. We listened to our members who said they didn't like PayPal. So you can use anything but PayPal now. RMFTs, we have a lot of them. Not looking at our website though. Where are you? People can't find you. I cannot answer the public's questions when they call me and say, do you have someone in Timbuktu? Yes, can't tell you where they are, can't give you their information because I've only got it in our membership database. So I don't know if the information I have is your office or your home. So please, it's not hard to do, and I'll easily help you out with it. Get in there and do a quick listing. Even if you are not accepting anyone at this time, create the listing. Don't put a phone number on there and just say, sorry, at this time I'm not accepting clients. At least then the public know we are there and that people are using us. Okay, please. It doesn't take as long as the old one. And I will admit right now, maybe it's not quite as intuitive as the old one. We're doing our best with it. Again, like any program you purchase, Wild Apricot had a way of doing things, and this is their way. And if you complain enough people that work with Wild Apricot say the same idea, they change. And I have seen that since we started, so I think it's great. As was Andrew related a little while ago about emails and e-blasts, there's two sides of every group. Quit emailing me. I know you're there. Or, where are you? I never hear from you. You don't tell me anything. So it is hard. And I know in the next little while, you're probably going to get a lot of emails. And as was suggested, polls. Try and answer the polls so that we have your knowledge. We know what you're looking for. It took a while to get our election poll up and really people answering it. Eventually, though, I was very pleased with the results of the number of people that could vote, that did vote. I just want to say what a pleasure it is, again, to work with everyone. I've enjoyed working with the board immensely, and I'm looking forward to working with the new board, although I still don't know why you two have to leave. That's my report.
Thanks so much, Donna. Really, we would not have gone through these 2 years without Donna. Absolutely would not have made it. Next up, we're going for the committee updates. So I was thinking also in the committee updates, if you want to field questions to the people here, please, it's up to you for everybody doing their committee updates, because I know we have more than enough time to do so. So first up is Publications Committee. Olga, come on up. Oh, and Dan, right, sorry.
Olga and I are working on the idea of a journal for the association. We want it to be not traditional. We want it to be inviting. We want it to be interactional. And so we are in the process of getting it going. It should be ready to go up online in the first of the year through Guelph. So we've got some of the details worked out. We don't even have a title for what this journal could be called. I think the latest provisional working title is Irreverence. We're making an invitation to all of you, if you want to join us in developing what this journal might look like, to let us know, and we'd be happy to loop you into our talks about it. If you want to be a reviewer, if you want to look at articles, if you want to contribute in other ways, let us know. This will be a journal that won't be just academic. It'll have academic components. People can do the kinds of articles that you see in other mainstream journals, but we'll also be featuring articles that are practice-based. It could be things that are written, it could be video, it could be documents. There's, as far as the Guelph technicians will let us go, we will create these kinds of things for people to look at about working with families in as many ways as you can think. What did I leave out?
I think that's it. Yeah, we just want to kind of disrupt sort of what is like the traditional distinction between sort of practice and informal and magazine and academic, formal, peer-reviewed. So we want to sort of disrupt that and create a journal that would feature different kinds of articles, and we'll have practitioners who are reviewers of manuscripts, and again, different formats, and also experimenting with more of an interactive type of journal where readers could actually comment and have online discussions about about manuscripts that are published with author's consent at an early stage of the submission of manuscripts. So there might be some discussion articles where you could see kind of different iterations of the manuscripts, and the readership could contribute to basically give some feedback to the author of the manuscript. So we're just experimenting with different ideas, and we will be getting your input related to what kind of a journal you would like, what kind of a journal would be meaningful to you. So we're looking forward to hearing from you about that.
Maybe even a title could be Disruption. What do you think of that? Would that be a good title? Okay.
Do you have any questions for us?
Thank you. Okay. Next up is the Professional Development Committee, and Leah McInnes is going to give us an update on her committee.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leah McInnes, and I took over chair of the Professional Development Committee in January. And I'd like to acknowledge Paige Greiba, who left that position, and for all of her hard work, as well as Larry Beach, who left us as well. And we bid them a fond farewell and give them great thanks. So we had Catherine Harris and Alan Studd, who remained on the committee, and we were joined by Jordell Pilger, who is now our secretary, and Maria Gordon, who couldn't be with us here today. Let's see, what have we done? So with great help from Catherine Harris, we created a policy and procedure document for CEUs. We did a webinar with Dr. Sue Johnson, which was a great success. And here, right here. This has all been, so far it looks like it's going really well. So we're really excited. What we've discovered is that it takes a lot of work on the ground, especially wherever the next conference is going to be held. So perhaps there are some people out there who might like to give us a hand in another location next year. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Leah. And next up will be Catherine Guthrie with the Credentialing and Membership Committee.
It's great to see so many people here, and I was just reminded, I think I came in a moment late, we're also live on YouTube, and I just got a text from the former president of OAMFT to say he's watching us. So hi, Ron, wherever we're being recorded from. So shout out to all those people also who are watching on YouTube. This is great. I love my job. I'm another person who is really enthusiastic to be on this board. I just find it a really enlivening experience. And I'm also a person who would say how indebted we are to Donna, because Donna just keeps everything running. And I get polite little nudges from her, and I get things like, I think I know the answer to this, but would you just back me up? Or, you know, that kind of thing. So between us, we manage a fair volume of inquiries and applications and so on. So that's one of our big jobs, is simply administering the membership processes. And I would also like to say how gracious people are, even when I'm saying no to them and saying, you know, sorry, this doesn't work this way, you're going to have to also do this. I always hate to tell people, no, you have to do more work or spend more money. But people just say, thanks for that, and they get on it. I would like to say again, as I did this morning, how grateful I am to Annette Decker for having done pretty much all the work in creating the Supervisor Guidebook, with further very able and reflective feedback from Jan Derrick. So that was just an amazing gift to CAMFT. And Annette herself would say, I didn't know what I was getting into. But she did it. We had a conversation where she said, some days I just want to close my computer. And I just said, Annette, don't close it. And we got the guidebook, and it's wonderful. So really just responding to membership requests and launching the Supervision Guidebook and all that goes with that. There's still works in progress, but that's what we've been doing this year. And looking ahead, we're a really high priority for me right now is developing and ensuring access to supervision and the training of supervisors across Canada. So if you are here wondering how to find a supervisor or how to become a supervisor, and you feel like you're in some, I won't call them backwaters, but some less accessible part of Canada, which of course we have many of, talk to me and we'll see what we can figure out. And also our other big initiative this year has been the beginning of sustaining and improving access to relational and family therapy training opportunities within and beyond the existing training programs. And you'll hear me, that was one of the workshops this afternoon, and you'll hear me speak a little bit more about that later on. So we are currently working hard to identify training opportunities across Canada so that more members can become, more members can become RMFTs and can also become supervisors, and in turn then help other people achieve their RMFT status. I'll speak to you a little bit more when we get to the accreditation working group, but any questions? I hope you do know, you can always email Donna and she will forward to me any questions you have about the membership and credentialing process, whether it's becoming a student, becoming an associate member, an RMFT, supervisor qualifying, supervisor mentor. We want an engaged membership, so we want to hear from you. Thanks.
Thank you, Catherine. Next up for the Ethics Committee is Carl. Oh, there's Carl.
The work goes up there. Okay, hello everyone. Just a quick ethics report, but before I start, I just want to publicly thank Jody Lampert is in the room here, so just a huge appreciation. You're welcome up here if you would like. And then also Ruth Newstifter from University of Guelph, and they're unable to be here today, but both Ruth and Jody have been so generous with their time and their wisdom in helping out with the Ethics Committee, so thank you very much to both of you. It's been a very busy year for us, building on the work of the committee who drafted the original Code of Ethics. There were a couple of revisions that we had to make, and then that was put forward to the board, who accepted it and published it earlier this year, so that we have now a Code of Ethics that represents Canadian values and the ethics of the association, and that's wonderful. For the committee work, what we have done this year, we've drafted the complaints form, the CAMFT, ACTCF procedures for handling ethical matters, and an info sheet for members in the event of a complaint. The procedures have been freshly drafted, and they're actually currently in front of the board and waiting for the board either to revise them and shoot them back to us or to accept them. So we hope that is an efficient process. On top of drafting all of those different documents, currently there is one complaint in front of the Ethics Committee, and so we're waiting for the procedures to be finalized before we can move forward on the complaint. But there have also been 19 consultations in total for the Ethics Committee, 7 with members around ethical matters. And I think it's important that members know that if they find themselves in a dilemma, they are welcome to contact the Ethics Committee through Donna with a hypothetical situation. And if we are able to be helpful, we are absolutely willing to talk with members around those. There have been 5 consultations with members of the public, 3 consultations with the membership committee, 3 different consultations with other professional associations, and the 1 formal complaint. The next steps for us, once the procedures have been ratified, we need to move forward with the formal complaint and our annual ethics committee review meeting. And the other step for us is that we need to look at the Code of Ethics, and we need to engage some kind of public dialogue with membership about the Code of Ethics, looking to any suggestions for updates or changes to that code now that it is actually out in the public and has been working for a year now. Any questions for the Ethics Committee? Yes.
Thank you. Carl, I was just wondering, when you were talking about the Code of Ethics being I'm not sure if the right word is ratified or accepted.
Sure.
Was there another body that it had to go through?
No, just to the board of the
Just the board.
CAMFT.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. And
Sorry.
next up is the Elections Committee. Oh, sorry. Okay, there we go.
I just had a question. Many of us are members of our respective colleges. So with regards to complaints, how does that work? Maybe you mentioned it, but I didn't quite get it. If there is a complaint, is it a double whammy? Basically, is it our college as well as the association?
That's an awesome question. No, I didn't address it, and it's somewhat addressed in the procedures that are in front of the board. What we had decided as the Ethics Committee to do is, yes, it's a double whammy, but if there is a complaint already in front of either a licensing body or a regulatory body, or if there is a legal process that is happening, generally speaking, what professional associations will do is they will put that complaint on hold until the formal processes from either the regulatory bodies or if it's a criminal process concludes, and then we'll resume our own evaluation of that complaint within our membership.
So are you saying that CAMFT is not a regulatory body?
No, so like what is the CRPO in Ontario is a regulatory body. They have the provincial jurisdiction to regulate the profession of psychotherapy within the province of Ontario. The College of Registered Psychotherapists of Ontario. So they are a provincially recognized regulatory body. And so if there's a member in Ontario who has a complaint against them at the CRPO, who is also a member of CAMFT, then a complaint can be made there, and a complaint can also be made with us. But we would recognize the process that is happening at the regulatory or the licensing body in either Ontario or licensing in Quebec. And when that process concludes, we will take that evidence into consideration in our own review of the process.
So we're a secondary level of response to the complaint?
Yes and no. I think we're a primary level of response to the complaint, but we are not. Excuse me. But we don't have a legal provincial. We don't have a legal standing where the regulatory bodies and legal processes have the legal standing. At which point. So we allow those procedures to conclude first, and then we would get involved as well. And part of the Code of Ethics is if somebody is found guilty of various, either an offense under the Civil Code or other things, that becomes yet one more issue that can be brought forth in front of the Ethics Committee. So we work in tandem with some of those processes, but typically speaking, we have the discretion to hold off on our final deliberation until those processes conclude. One of the things that we have to balance out in that situation, of course, is the protection of the public. And if there is somebody who is practicing who is endangering the public, waiting for another process to conclude before we conclude our process may not be ethical in and of itself. So we have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. If that answers? Yeah. Okay, any other questions? Isn't ethics fun? Okay.
You can escape now. Next up, Vicky, could you please come up for the Elections Committee report, which includes the results of our elections?
Yes. Hello. This is my other hat, and since this hat is about encouraging people to join the board, I do feel compelled to clarify that I actually do enjoy being secretary on the board. Apparently in September 2017 when I agreed, I was grumpy that day, and that made an impression on Andrew. it's really kind of fun. It's okay. All right. So this year, our elections committee, I don't think any of the other, well, Donna Chamberlain, as our administrator, kind of keeps us organized and on task. The other committee members are not here with us, but they are Janie Com from BC and Lawrence Beach from Ontario. And myself, I'm the board liaison to the elections committee. This past year, we had positions open for 2 directors on the board, and the nomination period, hopefully you also saw those emails, that was in August, between August and September 13th, and there was a voting period between October 1st and 15th. The committee did successfully secure nominations for 3 very strong candidates for these positions, and the successful candidates this year are Heather Robertson from Manitoba, and Cameron Keller from BC. Cameron isn't able to be here in Winnipeg right now, but maybe he's watching. Welcome. And we look forward to having them both work on the board. We're very grateful to all of the nominees' interest. And so I also just want to mention that part of following what Andrew was saying in terms of our whole board's hope and vision to extend our representation of the board and make sure we have connection across this country, if you are also passionate about that and would like to be involved in connecting members and connecting potential people who might be interested on the board, this committee will need some additional person power. So do feel free to let us know if you'd like to serve on this committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicki. Next up is the Student Affiliate Committee report. Unfortunately, Marjorie Rose, who is the head of that committee, was not able to attend. But we did have a long conversation a few days ago, and I even tried to reach her on my phone to see if I could put her sort of on my phone on the mic, but I'm not able to reach her. So and once again, this is just based on my conversations with Marjorie Rose. One of the things that she was very much highlighting was the difficulty with this committee is it's populated by students who are usually overloaded, have too much work, it's sometimes multiple jobs, and she is really, really looking for some other students to join the committee so that they can really spread the workload around. One of the things she is really trying to do is engage with all of the students that are in the various programs across the country, whether it's at the graduate, postgraduate, certificate, even people that are undergrad heading towards coming into the field. And obviously that takes a lot of work. So she's really looking for people, hopefully from each one of the programs, to come and join the Student Affiliate Committee so that we really create a much better pipeline into the association. Because really, this association has to meet the needs of the students and the people starting out, because they are who will be running this association in the years to come. And she's very passionate about it, but as she couldn't be here, she's overloaded too. And I really want to thank her for all the work she's been doing. And please, she kept stressing, we need more people for that committee. If you're interested, please contact Donna. Donna will be able to put you in touch with Marjorie, or even you can contact me and I'd be happy to put you in contact with her. So is there any questions about Student Affiliate Committee? No? Not that I know if I'd be able to answer most of them. Okay. So next up is working group updates. So the accreditation working group, Catherine, could you please come on up?
So after I'd been doing the job as membership and credentialing chair for a little while, it became obvious that our relationship with all the schools who train RFTs was going to be really valuable to us. And I started to think, how will we approach them all? How will we get them all involved? How will we have a conversation? about getting them all to really be invested with CAMFT. Some of them have pretty deep roots and big investments of time and money with AMFT. What are we going to do? And before I could really even begin to imagine what we could do, I got a couple of phone calls who basically said, please do something, and we're on board, and we will help you make this happen. So Andrew and Brenda Spitzer, another longtime, deep-rooted, vigorously serving member of CAMFT, visited or phoned representatives from the 8 schools across Canada, and we had buy-in basically like that. It was really very affirming for us that all the schools were really interested in participating. So the schools are, and I'm just used to naming them from east to west. So Montreal is the McGill program in Montreal, St. Paul's program in Ottawa, Tyndale in Toronto, University of Guelph, University of Winnipeg, Briarcrest in Saskatchewan, University of Calgary, and Trinity Western in Langley. Those are the 8 schools which we basically identify as they're like our feeder schools. So about a little over a year ago, I know that I got up at 5:30 in the morning to catch a plane and fly to Winnipeg and meet my colleagues here, and we spent a day together, and we all got back on planes and went home either that night or the next day, and we just talked about, can we do this? Can we put this together? Can we make this work? Can we, and we aren't going to be all unified, but how can we create some kind of agreement that will work for all 8 schools, that there will be some kind of coherence across the country? And so then we had some Zoom meetings, and someone said, you know what, we need to do, some of this work we need to do face-to-face. So Dan and Sally very graciously invited us to come to Calgary and hosted us in their home for the meetings. We stayed in a hotel, but we spent a couple of amazing days. I can tell you what a privilege it was for me, I'm just the facilitator in this, to sit in a room full of smart, dedicated, deeply, deeply gracious, generous people who are so devoted to this. And it was one of the moments that I've had the privilege to have over the last couple of years where you really realize this is history in the making, as is this event today. But it's such a privilege to be part of these kind of events. So these folks worked really, really hard for a couple of days in clusters and created an outline for what kind of needed to go into this plan for training. And we're not really aiming to reinvent the wheel or make something new, but to kind of rationalize what is there and kind of draw it into line. And the way it's going to work, there was a meeting this afternoon, and we sort of shared out where we've got to so far. We're going to wait for feedback. We need feedback from that group. So those of you who were there, please have the feedback to us not later than the 30th of November, so we can incorporate it into our work. Our aim is that by the end of the year, we will then have woven that feedback into our proposal. The proposal will then go to each of the schools, and the schools will start to consider, how are we in relation to this proposal? Can we meet it fairly easily? Can we imagine meeting it at all? How will this work? So, and then they will send that information back to the working group, and the working group will work on it some more. So it's kind of this iterative in and out, back and forth process over the next probably 2 to 3 years. And the goal is that all of the schools will be able to say, we're in, and that the programs, the changes in the programs will be in place by December of 2023. I think I'm describing that right. Does that sound about right, fellow AWG people? That's kind of our plan. So we're speaking and listening and weaving, and then things are going out to the schools and coming back to us again over the next couple of years. So if you have input into this process, please let us know. Any questions about that? It probably sounds kind of arcane and maybe doesn't make a lot of sense, but you'll be hearing more about it in the next few years. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Catherine. Next up, David, will you come join me up here? David and I are on the Regional National Relationship Working Group. I think another title we got to change too. But why don't you take the mic?
Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm David, and I'm from Kelowna. And I think that we've got a lot of time to kill now, right, Donna? So I'm just going to stand up here for a long time and talk at you.
We can do jokes.
Can we?
Sure.
I'll be the straight man.
Okay.
Okay. All right. First of all, let me just say that it really has been my pleasure to serve on this board, and the description that Catherine just used around working with smart people, courageous people, history-making people, I think that really applies to my board colleagues. I was saying to someone earlier today that one of the serendipities about working with boards, or specifically this board, has been the people you get to meet along the way, and the people that you really do get to serve with. Ian knows our incoming board member, Cameron Keller, and I said to him last night, I said, please make sure you let Cameron know that he's got very, very small shoes to fill. So I've just been happy to be along for the ride and serve in whatever way that I've been able to, and just been thrilled. I've served on other boards, some strategic boards, working boards, and typically when my term has been up, I'm happy to step off. I feel ready to step off the board, and I'm sure maybe some of my board colleagues feel ready for me to step off as well. That's not the case this time around. I actually do have some sadness about stepping away from the board at this time. It's a very exciting time. And as I came onto the board, we were sort of entering into a season of distress, and we went through a grieving process and some loss, and we came through that together. And to see what has risen out of that experience has just been deeply, deeply gratifying. And to have walked that journey with these people has been just a thrill. So I leave with mixed feelings. On to my committee report. So Andrew said we've got this regional national working group, and we've been sort of kicking this around now for about 15 or 16 months. And what's been great, again, has been the people that have sort of said, yeah, that's something that's captured our interest, and we're really interested in figuring out what it would look like to work at a regional, local, special interest level with a national organization. So that's really what the conversation has been in that period of time. The working group members making contributions to our conversation over the last year have been Colleen Ellis, representing Atlantic Canada, Eric Bailey, representing the Prairies, Saskatchewan, Andrew, representing Central Canada, both Roger Wells and myself representing Pacific Canada, and Donna representing us nationally. We do have currently interest from 2 or 3 other jurisdictions looking to participate with us. And we also anticipate Deb Dieter joining our committee as the president-elect from the BC AMFT. Also, we recently have received interest and now extended the invitation to Berthold Carter from Ontario and Kelly Brushett from Atlantic Canada to join our committee. So we're growing, and we're very excited about that. We typically meet by Zoom the first Wednesday of every month. And again, we've been doing that now over the last year. In very general terms, what we've been working on is trying to create subunits within the National Association. And these are units that would be able to sit at various decision-making bodies across the country. The idea is that, and Andrew's been hammering this point home all weekend, I hope you've caught it, that really what we're looking for are grassroots initiatives. We really want things to be driven from the bottom up, right? Can we all say that together? From the bottom, right, okay, exactly. We're not looking to do some of what we've experienced historically, which is sort of like a top-down thing. We're really trying to just establish a new culture and a new way of going about our business. So we are waiting, in a sense, for expressions of interest from regional jurisdictions telling us in their terms what they need. What are the issues in your community, in your jurisdiction, and how can we come alongside to help support that? In addition to that dynamic, there's also strong committee recognition that there is something that grassroots, local, regional entities can do that we actually can't do, again, top down from a national basis. And what is that? That there's a sort of an organic type of networking that can happen really with those smaller regional units. And so we're really looking forward to seeing what that generates as time goes by as well. So the regional national mandate really exists because right now we need to be able to work at a local regional level. However, presently there is no home for that under our current bylaws. So in recognizing this, our goal this year, this past year, has been to work on a tweak, so to speak, of our bylaws to have a more graduated administrative structure. So some specific things that have been accomplished this year. We developed and submitted a report based on a review of bylaws. I should go back and just cover one thing here, and that is we really do need, our committee needs to acknowledge the heavy, heavy lifting of one of our committee members, Roger Wells, who I'm sure is tuning in with us as well. Yes, he's brilliant, and I'm sure if he's watching right now, he's also mortified. But that's okay. He needs to get a shout out because he really has done just yeoman's work on this committee. And so some of the specific deliverables have been the submission of a report based on a review of the bylaws, bylaws from associations across the country with substantial overlap with MFT, sometimes in their scope of practice, all of which provide some variant of administrative structure regarding how regionality can be accomplished. So we put that together. Then there was also a letter that was developed, a regional national working group letter that was sent out to interested or what we thought might be interested parties, jurisdictions across the country. Again, soliciting feedbacks. It was a letter of invitation. And so that was developed and sent out. Then I think most of you have been handed by now a document, or actually 3 documents. These are draft documents for you to take a look at, take home with you. Only one of these 3 documents currently, or actually, no, I take that back. None of these documents currently are on the website, but we're hopeful that they can go up on the website. So you can take a look at that as well. With the intention, again, these are draft documents. We're wanting your feedback. We're soliciting your feedback. But here's what they are. The first document that you have there is a set of suggested bylaw changes for us to take a look at and at some point adopt to formalize a relationship between the regions and us as a national organization. As part of that package, you'll see sort of the rationale for the initiative. You'll see some of the ideas or the policies, the thinking that went into why some of the changes have been proposed. And then secondly with that, you'll see that there's been regional national working group policies and procedures for branches. Again, draft document for your review. And then finally, because we do actually have a body that we're working with right now, sort of on a pilot basis, just to get our feet wet, so to speak, or to give us a model by which we can then potentially duplicate and roll out as other groups express interest. We do have an application that's been drafted for entities to say, yeah, we want to play along, we want to be part of this. How can we be part of this? And so there's a draft application form as part of the handouts that you've received as well. Finally, we submitted a motion to the CMFT board for the adoption of this proposal regarding affirming a process for relationships between regional special interest groups and the national group. And that has been affirmed and adopted. So, do you have anything you want to jump in and say at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things I was saying is we'll probably have to change the name, because a lot of what we were talking about, it started off with the regional piece, but since then we've been sort of saying, remember, we want to be a Big Tent, we want to be inclusive. How do we bring everybody in? And one of the things David and I were discussing was saying, well, this could be a good place to bring other people in. So David and I had a great discussion with a grad student who she hadn't given me permission to name her, so last night, and just talking about the whole idea of, well, maybe we could have an LGBTQ group that could use this model. Because this is a model that's supposed to be loose enough that different entities could use it in a way that they see fit. In other words, we're just giving the structure in terms of logistics, ethics, finances, just enough of a skeleton that everybody can then modify it to their own needs. We've had other talks about indigenous groups. This could be another place where we could really bring more groups into the association. And we recognize that the list is almost endless. And it's really depending on you guys, the members, of what you want to see really expand within the CMFT. Because if you're passionate about it and you want to see it being part of the CMFT, come, talk to David and I. We'll be happy to bring you, invite you to the table, and we'd love to see you and to see not just regions, but a multitude of different groups become part of the, I don't know what we'll call it, but regional special interest / something national group. We'll find something. Anyway, anything else?
Yeah, maybe I'll just quickly walk you through what's happening in terms of the model I mentioned a moment ago. And I think this kind of dovetails with what Carl was addressing a moment ago in terms of code of ethics and complaints procedure. The BCAMFT, who sits at the FACT BC table in British Columbia, a group working with other counseling professionals to look for provincial regulation through a regulatory body, has obviously, as we've gone through the transition over the last few years, not continued their relationship with the AAMFT. One of the criteria for them to sit at that table, the FACT BC table, is that they actually need to have or have an affiliation with a body with a code of ethics and with a complaints process. So although we are not a regulatory body, we are actually a self-regulatory body in that sense. And so that piece was very, very important for the folks in BC. So as they allowed the relationship with AAMFT to lapse, the question then became, now what? How do we legitimize our place at this table and advocate for MFTs on the ground? And that was when the conversation started between us and them. And so they've provided for us what we believe is a really great model, an opportunity really to work out some of these details for what it could look like, what it could feel like, to have relationships with groups and entities moving forward. So that's the piece that is really, we're playing with it, we're talking about it, we're really, we're looking at this point to receive an application from the British Columbia group around this. Where we sit currently is that, again, we're looking to just receive your feedback on this, and as we do, we will then, I think we're pretty close to being ready to taking these proposed bylaws in for a legal review. where we will ask the question, will these bylaws accomplish for us what we're hoping that it will accomplish for us? So that's where we're at, and at this point, we're just really inviting your feedback to us.
And this is hopefully maybe for other people that are in other provinces and other regions. We're really trying to emphasize is that we're Canadians. We want to work together. We want to be collaborative. Any other region or province that is looking at working with their provincial governments around licensure and stuff like that, we want to help. We want to be part of the process. And if there's a place for us to help you, please, shout out to us, and we'd be more than happy to try and meet your needs. Okay. Thank you,
everybody.
Thanks, David. So the last one was acknowledgement of departing board members and welcoming of new board members, which I think we... Oh, yeah. Okay. So we've already kind of done that in the midst of it, saying bye to Vicki and David and hello to Heather, who's already been here, and Cameron. But one of the... Catherine just reminded me that just to remember that there will be a series of bylaw changes coming, and we will be asking you for your input and to vote by email. We're going to do it electronically, because as you know, these bylaws, when we set them up, there was a lot of things we did not foresee. We tried to, we couldn't. But obviously, any bylaw changes, we will be very clear in what it is that we're changing and really show you this is what we have now and this is what we're proposing, and ask for your feedback and your input, because once again, it's got to work for the members at large. Any bylaw changes we're proposing are ways that we can further serve our members. Sir, anybody? Sorry, if you can just get the mic, because I can't really hear you very well.
It's not really a question, it's just a comment, and I don't want to
ahead.
interrupt what you want to say first.
No, that was it. We're sort of at the end of our meeting, and I just wanted to invite us. Is there any other questions? Oh, right, sorry. I've gotten a lot better at running meetings, but people always have to remind me. We need to make a motion, first of all, just make a motion to approve all of the reports that have been presented to you today. Could I get somebody make a motion to approve them? Okay. All right. Any other comments about them? No. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the reports? Aye. Aye. Those opposed? Nope. All right. So passed. Have I missed anything else around just logistics? Okay. So we're open to questions right now. Sure. Or comments.
It's not a question, it's a comment. I want to say how very happy I am to be here as we celebrate a Canadian association. I became a member of AMFT in 1974, I think, very early on. So it's been a long journey for me to see this day happen. And there are so many people to thank for this happening, including our incoming new members on the board. But a special thanks to Andrew, too, who's been... Andrew, you've hung in there for so long and have worked so hard to see that this is a creation from the bottom up. So thanks to you, to all the people that have served so faithfully, and we hope that we continue for a long time.
Thank you. Thanks. Is there anybody else who has any questions for myself or the board or comments, please? I mean, because I know we have time. We sort of budgeted till 7, so we have plenty of time if anybody has anything else.
Oh, hi. You're going to help me with this question. if I need help. But yeah, we were just wondering what the CAMFT, if there are specific plans or actions to help us with regulation, and I know it's different in different provinces, so that's confusing. But because, so we're accredited, our school is accredited, but we're not, we don't have a regulatory body through the province, is that right? Yeah, so, and just that's an important issue. And in a secondary issue, which is related, is that I know that there's a program, for example, for residential school survivors to get therapy that's from the federal government, I think as part of the reconciliation process, that if you look at who's included, the providers, and it sort of has to do with regulation, but we're not on the list, and that seems really dumb. And then if they're assuming the federal government works toward it, including mental health care more, depending what happens on Monday, then we know, are we working with them so that we are included in that providing mental health care to Canadians? Is that okay?
Okay. Anybody else want to, from the board, field it?
Well, if I understand the question, you're asking about regulation, yes?
Regulation is part of it. Because of not being regulated, we're often excluded. For example, we're excluded from formally, although I think some MFTs probably could participate, but we're formally not included in providing that mental health care for residential school survivors and their families. So it's regulation, and also, which is related to being included in whether it's private or public funding for mental health care.
So, Deb, I'm going to look over at you for a minute, because what I learned from Deb a few years ago is that our work and our profession is actually recognized at the federal level. The challenge is that the way health is administered across the country happens at the provincial level. So while we do have now 2 provinces where we do have provincial regulation, we don't have that across the country, because each province is yet to figure their way through that. That's what I was referencing earlier when I talked about the initiatives in British Columbia, where there is a very strong push for a provincial regulatory body, right? And so the short answer to your question is actually yes, because we're wanting to hear from people like you, again, boots on the ground, who are saying, we have a cohort of people that really are passionate about this issue, and we need help. And so that's where we're wanting to be very, very responsive to the specific needs and the nuances within your jurisdiction. And our goal would be to come alongside you to support in whatever way makes sense. So I hope that answers your question, but the short answer is yes.
There's a bit of history to this. Many years ago, the Canadian Registry met in Ottawa in order to do a visit up to Parliament Hill. And some people went off to the Department of Health, who handle health care for the Indigenous and First Nations, and some people went off to Veterans Affairs and DND to try and get us included as essential caregivers for, in the case of DND, soldiers, veterans, and we were looking for that for Indigenous families. We did not succeed with the Department of Health for some reason. We did with DND and veterans, and I don't think that has changed in the intervening years. Yep. So there's a bit of history to that. It needs to be pursued. So, yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Sure.
I don't know what that means either. Hello? Oh, there we go. Okay, I don't know. So just to clarify, there's actually regulation for psychotherapy in 4 provinces, pending in another. So Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and pending in Alberta. Right? And that's significant because we need 5 provinces for the federal government to consider a HST exemption. The others, and Alan presented a good background on the federal government and its who and what RMFTs will be recognized for. So I think part of what needs to happen at the provincial level is there needs to be lobbying to be done if you want to be regulated. I'll tell you that's a long process. The other is if people see that being regulated is advantageous for the kind of work they do, the college in Ontario does not have a residency requirement. So anybody in Canada, in fact, anybody in the world can become registered in Ontario. So that would be another option while we wait and this organization grows larger and we continue to advocate for regulation in all provinces.
In addition, in British Columbia, the BCAMFT has also regularly approached insurance companies, and I would encourage you all to do that as well. And recently, BC got the Air Canada grant, so now all Air Canada employees can be reimbursed from a registered marriage and family therapist. So if you know of some companies, or you can approach them yourself, or you can ask your clients to include us in their insurance, because even though it could be Sun Life, they'll do it for some companies and not for other companies. So that it really needs from the ground up that the clients are asking for that kind of reimbursement.
The question, if I heard it correctly, was asking whether there might be any help from the CMFT. Did I hear that correctly? That was it? Yeah. And the kind of help that we would like would be money help, wouldn't it? A few years ago, when we were still part of the AAMFT, they made it possible for us to raise money to do lobbying in each of our jurisdictions. And I wonder if that could be something that we could arrange at a Canadian level, and maybe you can take that to the board and see what might be done. We had to raise the money ourselves, and we had a period of time, as you'll recall, that we did that. So I'm wondering if that might be an option.
And that's actually something David and I have been talking about, but being very clear that we need a group of people that are boots on the ground who really want to lead this. This can't be done top, bottom, like national. I have no clue what to do in PEI or Manitoba or anything. Like we have in BC, we have a group of people who are saying, we're there, we're doing it, we want to do it, can you help us? And we're like, sure. But there's got to be a group that's sort of there saying, we're going to do the heavy lifting on the ground at that regional level. Because at the end of the day, we're also all volunteers, and the board is already stretched pretty thin. So if any province where you've got a group of people that are really interested and want to collaborate and want our help, please just reach out, email us, contact Donna. David and I would love to talk to you. And yes, that means also potentially raising money to help with your drive towards licensure. Anyone else?
I think I was going to say something, but I think you just kind of answered it.
Okay.
But I guess just to sort of underline, like at the provincial level, yes, we're all volunteers, but any kind of regulatory process is provincial, but it requires an act of legislation, right? And so it's hard, I think, for a group of volunteers from diverse professions, which is what we're noticing in Manitoba. It's really hard to get the momentum. And so as you folks are organizing yourselves, I feel like, having been on the Manitoba Regulation Committee for a number of years, and kind of, I just think there's frustration all around in the provinces where there's no regulation or where we aren't regulated. I guess I would just encourage you folks, as you organize and figure out that I mean, I haven't been to any MFT gathering ever, I don't think, where the topic of regulation hasn't come up. Yeah. And so I offer that to you
Okay.
as a pretty important national priority. And so I kind of hear you saying, like, talk to us if it's important to you, but we've said for years it's important to us.
Yeah.
So that's something where that sort of like support for the policy work and the provincial legislation in each place that's needed, like, it just needs more, I think, than what we've been able to rally in Manitoba.
Yeah. And one thing also David and I have said, we don't need 20 people. At some points, like in Atlantic Canada, it was like 3 people. It could be 2 people who say, look, we really want to get this moving. And it can be one person saying, I really want to get this moving. But we need somebody, you know, to work with or to partner with, because we don't know what's on the ground at the regional level. And we're happy to provide direction and to help and everything like that, but we really feel it's got to be a collaborative process. Sharon?
Following up on what Kelly said, I wonder if there is a way for people who are agitating provincially to feed forward that information to the CAMFT board. Because as you're saying, it's really hard to know when you're on one side of the country what's going on in the other. And perhaps there are stories or experiences or resources that are occurring regionally that could be shared so that folks are not unduly frustrated, because frustration is not awesome.
Yeah.
And because regulation takes so long, there's a blinding flash of the obvious, right? Coming from Ontario and thinking about how long it took to help members understand the distinction between regulation and a professional association, and then knocking on all those doors to actually have a bureaucrat listen for more than 5 minutes, then creating documents that summarize well what's going on. It's an awful lot of work. However, if there could be a clearinghouse to gather those stories, then it might provide a little bit of encouragement. And then also, to picking up what Kevin said, if with now 5 provinces, to demonstrate there's momentum here, and so if the powers that be are not finding access to marriage and family therapists to be the #1 issue on their plate, noise helps to make it the #1 issue on their plate.
Yeah. Sharon, couldn't agree more with you, and I think that's a great idea. And David and I we could definitely make this committee, this working group, be able to have a repository of all this information. And yes, please send it on to us. We're more than happy. We don't know what we don't know, so that's a great thing. Thank you. Anybody else? Thoughts, comments?
Yeah, so I just have 2 things. I want to just pick up one little thing with that, and I have something totally different to say. In smaller provinces, it's going to be really important to gather other allied professionals, gather those people together to create a group that then lobbies together. This isn't something that can just be done on its own. There are lots of models for that. Sharon knows one well in Ontario, as do I, and would be happy to give our support and resources for that. I wanted to go back a bit and pick up on what Pauline was saying, and also share my kudos to you, Andrew, for your stick-with-itness. And I don't know whether people realize how significant Winnipeg is to CAMFT. So Andrew and I, and Annette and others, were at a meeting here a number of years ago with AMFT. And one part of that meeting, Sam, you were there too, one part of that meeting was trying to convince the powers at AMFT that we should be able to be a standalone organization. And I remember sitting in great frustration, not nearly the frustration I remember being on Andrew's face as we listened to the bureaucratic obfuscation of all the reasons why that was just not something that could be done easily. It would be terribly expensive. It would be by lawly impossible, even if by lawly is even a word. And we all left feeling, you know, just incredibly, what's that? Frustrated. I was trying to think of another word. And you know, I don't know that there was anybody in that room that was as frustrated as Andrew, and he held that. And he's held it until this day. And so Winnipeg is significant for that. Winnipeg is also significant because it was the place, as Catherine, thank you. I forget people's name when I stand up and talk. That Catherine noted that the 8 universities, 8 programs met to begin thinking about our own accreditation. And Winnipeg, a year later, is significant because here we are for the first inaugural CMFT conference. So I just think it's a day of storytelling and history. That's an important one for us to hold on to.
Well, I just want to add to what everybody said, and I wonder if it might be a good idea to create a working group, the same as we have a working group on accreditation, create some kind of a working group where people from different provinces and territories could support different regions in terms of registration. So if that's something that that anybody would be interested to let us know.
So in that handout that you all have, you'll see this reflected directly in the proposed bylaw changes, that what we're calling now the Regional National Working Group will at some point, as a result of the bylaw changes, become a standing committee of the board. And again, our intention is to grow representation, not only regionally, but also by interest groups. So we're hopeful, we're very hopeful, that the voices representing the needs, specifically around regulation and other very important initiatives regionally, will surface and will have the clearinghouse that you were talking about earlier, Sharon. So.
Yeah, and what's really important is please send us your feedback, send us your idea. Like Sharon, your idea was amazing. I didn't think of it. Thank you for giving it. Anybody else? Anything else before? Oh, sure.
Thank you for mentioning it. I still get a reminder in the mail that why aren't I signing up for the AMFT again? Because I've been a member since 1981. So this idea, they're not wanting to let me go. They don't want to let us go. Maybe that was the feeling I had. I don't know if anyone else gets a reminder. Oh, yeah. Or you get reminders.
Yeah, my dues, I just got a, email 2 weeks ago that my dues are ready, are necessarily to pay. But of course, they're going to want to keep on. Oh yeah. Well, that's up to us, though.
Okay. If there's nothing else, and obviously we can have conversations on the side, but I just want to adjourn the meeting. I don't have to do a motion, no? Pardon me? Everybody, what? All right, everybody vote to adjourn the meeting. All right, great. Meeting adjourned.
Meeting's adjourned, but please don't leave us. The board cannot eat all the hot hors d'oeuvres that will be coming out shortly on our own. So please hang around and help us with that. The beverage at the back table is now open. The young lady back there will be glad to help you out. Anything more?
In one study of what people like the most